Have you ever felt like you were the only one in your family who sees things differently? The only one who notices tension in the room, even when everyone else pretends nothing is wrong? The only one who asks questions that make people uncomfortable. Maybe you grew up in the same house as everyone else. You heard the same conversations. You experienced the same family traditions. And yet somehow, something inside you never fully agreed with everything that was considered normal. Maybe you're the one who believes forgiveness matters more than pride. Maybe you're the one who wants healing instead of silence. Maybe you're the one who quietly prays for your family when no one else even talks about God. And sometimes that difference can feel lonely. You might wonder why you care so deeply when others seem able to ignore things so easily. But what if that feeling isn't random? What if it isn't just your personality? What if God sometimes places one person inside a family to become the turning point of its story? Throughout the Bible, God often begins transformation through one individual. Joseph was one of them. Esther was another. David too. And many times that calling began in the most ordinary place of all, their own family. In today's video, we're going to explore 7 biblical signs that God may have chosen you in your family. Not because you are better than anyone else. Not because you are perfect, but because sometimes God entrusts deeper responsibility to the person willing to listen. Before we go further, it's important to understand something. Being chosen by God does not mean being superior. In Scripture, being chosen almost always meant responsibility. Think about Joseph. When his brothers sold him into slavery, it certainly didn't feel like a blessing. When he was falsely accused and thrown into prison, nothing about his situation looked special. But years later, Joseph realized something. God had been positioning him, because one day he would be in the exact place needed to save his entire family during a terrible famine. The calling wasn't about Joseph's comfort. It was about Joseph's responsibility. And the same pattern appears again and again in the Bible. David was overlooked by his own family. Esther was an orphan in a foreign land. Moses spent decades in the wilderness before leading anyone. God often begins his work through ordinary people, inside ordinary families. And often the first sign of that calling is simple. You begin noticing things others overlook. 1. You see things others don't. In many families, there is one person who begins noticing what others ignore, not because they want conflict, but because something inside them refuses to pretend certain patterns are normal. Maybe everyone laughs during a conversation, but you can feel tension underneath the humor. Maybe certain habits have existed for years. Anger during disagreements, silence after arguments, avoiding difficult conversations. To everyone else, it seems normal, but inside your heart, something quietly resists it. You find yourself asking questions. Why do we keep repeating this? Why does no one talk about what's really happening? The Bible calls this discernment. In 1 Samuel 16-7, we're reminded that people look at outward appearances, but God looks at the heart. When someone becomes sensitive to what God cares about, their perspective begins to change. They start noticing things others don't. And that awareness often leads to the second sign. 2. You carry burdens others avoid. Every family carries hidden struggles, unspoken disappointments, old wounds, conflicts that were never truly resolved. Most people prefer to avoid those things, but sometimes one person feels drawn toward them. Maybe you're the one checking on a sibling when they're struggling. Maybe you're the one trying to calm tensions when arguments start growing. Maybe you're the one praying quietly for family members who never asked for prayer. Galatians 6:2 says, "Carry each other's burdens." This kind of care is often called intercession. It means standing in the gap for someone else. But there is an important balance. Caring deeply does not mean fixing everything. You cannot control people's choices. Only God can change hearts. Your role is simply to love, pray, and remain faithful. And often the people who carry those burdens find themselves standing in the middle of difficult family seasons, which leads to the third sign. 3. You stand at the family breaking point. Every family eventually reaches a breaking point, sometimes through conflict, sometimes through crisis. A relationship breaks. A secret comes out. A painful season forces hidden struggles into the open. And often the person God is shaping finds themselves in the middle of that moment. You may become the one trying to bring peace, encouraging forgiveness, reminding people that relationships matter more than winning arguments. But that role can feel heavy, because people don't always understand your intentions. Yet Scripture reminds us that trials produce perseverance. Think about Joseph again. When his brothers betrayed him, it looked like his life had fallen apart. But later Joseph realized something. God had been positioning him. Sometimes God allows us to stand at the breaking point because He is preparing us to help rebuild. And during those seasons, another realization often appears. You begin noticing patterns that have existed in your family for generations. 4. You're breaking generational patterns. Every family has patterns. Some are beautiful traditions, but others are cycles that repeat through generations. Cycles of anger, silence, fear, or emotional distance. Many people repeat these patterns simply because they grew up around them. But occasionally someone decides to live differently. Maybe you're the one choosing forgiveness instead of resentment, honest conversations instead of silence, healing instead of pretending everything is fine. That person is often called a cycle breaker, someone who quietly decides, this pattern stops with me. Breaking cycles isn't easy. Sometimes it feels lonely, but it can change the future of an entire family. Because when one person chooses healing, the next generation grows up seeing something different. And before someone can bring that kind of change, God often prepares them in hidden ways. 5. God prepared you in hidden seasons. Before God uses someone publicly, He usually prepares them privately. You may have experienced seasons where you felt overlooked, misunderstood, even spiritually alone in your family. Those seasons can feel discouraging, but often they are preparation. In Isaiah, God describes hiding a sharpened arrow in His quiver. An arrow is carefully shaped before it is released, and spiritual growth works the same way. Think about Moses. Before he led the people of Israel, Moses spent 40 years in the wilderness. Those quiet years shaped humility and patience. Sometimes the seasons where you feel unseen are the seasons where God is forming your character. And when someone is shaped in those hidden places, something else begins to change. They stop measuring life through comparison. They begin listening to conviction. 6. You follow conviction, not comparison. Many families operate on comparison. Who is more successful? Who made the parents proud? Who seems to have life figured out? But the person God is shaping begins living differently. Instead of comparing themselves with others, they start listening to conviction. Conviction is that quiet voice guiding you toward what is right. Choose honesty. Choose patience. Choose integrity. Even when no one notices. Paul once wrote that if his goal was simply to please people, he could not serve God faithfully. Living according to conviction won't always earn approval, but it builds character. And over time, that quiet integrity becomes something people notice, which leads to the final sign. 7. God doesn't need perfection, just faithfulness. Many people disqualify themselves from God's calling because of their mistakes, but Scripture tells a different story. David made serious mistakes. Peter denied Jesus. Moses doubted himself. Yet God still used them because they remained faithful. In 1 Corinthians, we're reminded that what God requires is faithfulness, not perfection. Faithfulness often looks simple: continuing to pray, choosing patience, responding with kindness when emotions run high. Your family may forget what you say, but they will remember how you live. And sometimes the strongest testimony in a family is not perfection, it's consistency. If you recognize these signs, what should you do? First, pray for your family regularly. Second, lead by example instead of pressure. Third, set healthy boundaries when necessary. Fourth, stay humble about your role. And finally, trust God's timing. Family transformation rarely happens overnight, but quiet faithfulness plants seeds that grow over time. If there's one thing to remember from this message, it's this: being chosen in your family does not mean life will become easier. Sometimes it feels heavier because you see things others don't see. But lasting change often begins with one person who refuses to give up on what is right. A child watching someone choose patience. A sibling witnessing forgiveness. Seeds are planted in moments like these, and seeds grow. You may never see the full impact of your faithfulness, but that doesn't mean it isn't happening. Because sometimes the person who feels the most different in a family is the one God is using to quietly change its future, and sometimes that person is you.